Hey, how are y'all doing? So, I have my overnight highs here, my overnight lows here. We're trading the S&P 500 futures. So, I have my overnight highs here, overnight lows here. We're in this overnight range right here. And so, this first trade here, I like this because it's the third bounce off the key entry point with these two clear legs up. But the main thing is, so we have this big push higher, and then a break, and so we can expect it to be a measured move because it's a clear spike. And so we have a break of that, a first attempt to reach the measured move, second attempt, and then I was entering on the failure. And you can't say 100% sure if it's going to fail, and it is in play, and it closed above the EMA here, so I didn't want to try to push it too far, so I just liked 1-to-1 to get out before that swing. And because clearly there was some kind of resistance here inside the range. And so I noticed a couple other guys in the site got that as well, but anyway, so that looked good, and then we did. Here's the thing, though, it wasn't a successful failure, although a successful failure kind of sounds contradictory. But basically, this trade, if you entered short here, you're betting on this measured move failing to be met. And so if it doesn't go very far and then is already rushing back above the EMA and closing back above, then that means that it might not have been a perfect failure. It couldn't get past this resistance. We could end up reaching the measured move now, and so you'd have to switch directions pretty fast. And so that's why I don't like this short here. So that's why I have this marked here as a bad entry. So yeah, these blue arrows mean bad entries, and so I don't like that because we're rushing back above the EMA. The failure didn't work out. Looks like we're going to reach the measured move, or it looks like there's more bulls trying to reach the measured move than there are sellers against it at this point. And so I would not want to be entering short there. So here, I didn't get in on this long, but it looks good. So it's basically getting on with reaching the measured move. Clearly, there's some kind of resistance here. You can draw a trend line. I meant to say support. So you can draw a trend line up here. You're clearly trying to reach this measured move. You're holding above the EMA, and you're basically expecting to enter on a trap because you know that this isn't a good short to take because of the measured move in play rushing above. So you would really only have one option, and so that's why I like that long right there. And so anyway, we push higher. We go into this channel here. I'm going to remove this channel for a sec because I didn't have it at the time yet. I got it a little bit later when we got more price action. And so we went to this channel. There's a couple corrections in the channel. They're not very strong. They don't reach the EMA. But then finally, we do reach the EMA. This uptrend here gets a break. So uptrend, break. We can expect prices to make a new high. We really just have one push lower here. So, and if you have this uptrend, you'll notice it's right off the highs, but it's really just one attempt at reaching the lows, because when price reaches one side of a channel, it will try to reach the other side, kind of like in a range. I see that there's technically a second entry here, but in my opinion, on a big picture, it kind of reset because it's basically just making a double top. It really just looks like one swing and then one attempt. So I don't think there's anything good here necessarily. I would just want to wait on another leg down before buying, because it feels like it's not just that it's buying, really high. It's not just that it feels extended. It's that I would want to see a bigger correction because we're right off those up channel highs. So I don't think that that's a good trade. And so anyway, we push higher here. You can tell we're starting to go sideways just because we have a push down, a push up. It's kind of in a range right there, and then it gets choppy here. So we can draw this range. The EMA is getting more flat, and then eventually is when I started getting this right here. So I liked this trade right here, and here's the thing about it. We have this range already in play. We can already get that range drawn, and then we come off the channel highs. We have a first attempt to make a new low. We have a break, a second, or not to make a new low, sorry, but we have a first attempt to reach the other side of the channel, and then we have a little trap here. It's like the second attempt, but you would not want to be shorting that low in a range. If you have a range, you do not want to be shorting directly into the lows of it, because it could just bounce right off the resistance. But that's not the only thing. You're also in an uptrend, so you're shorting in an uptrend into resistance. And so that's not a good idea. And so if you can try to get in on a trap, get in on buying where the stop losses are for those shorts, then you could have a good trade. And that's why I like this trade right here. It's a higher low. You're buying the stop losses of those who went short here. It's not a good place to go short, which means it's a trap for those who are getting short. And yeah, so that's why I like that higher low. And yeah, and as you can see, there's enough room to get out before the highs, which you would want to get out before the highs of a range there. So you wouldn't want to have it try to push all the way through, try to go for 1 to 2. This is just a 1-to-1 trade here. And so here, this is another trap. So I can tell people will get trapped here because it looks like just a failed breakout. Except here's the thing, you really only have one big push up here. And so it's like you're in an uptrend, the bias is bullish, everything is up right now, and then you get a massive bullish spike and then one bearish closeout. That's not enough to go short, just because it's a failed breakout. If you got 2 legs, then there would be more chance of something, but you'd still be counter trend trading at that point. So just stick with the trend, and yeah, like, you definitely don't want to counter trend trade, especially right after a massive spike like that. So I don't think there's anything good in this area right here. Even after you get this second smaller leg, at this point you could say there's 2 legs up, but it's counter trend trading. It's not off of any resistance up here. It's just kind of near the highs. So this is not a good area here. But anyway, let me get this other channel back on. So I drew this, and this right here, I think that there is a good trade right here. I didn't take anything because, it closed below the EMA, and this one, it seemed like it was kind of rejecting the upside. But realistically, we have this uptrend here, and then we broke out, and then we have 2 attempts to fade to, not exactly fade back in, but kind of, because I usually think of fading with ranges. But we break out, we have an overshoot of this uptrend right here. So this main uptrend, we overshoot, we have 2 attempts to go back inside, and so I think that that's enough to go long, even though the first attempt didn't make it back in. So I think that's enough to go long, except you would want to get out before these highs, so you would want to play your order smart, so you'd want to get in with a limit order. But I just skipped it because it seemed a little bit sketchy, and it's right into this. It's kind of congestive, and it's right into those highs. So, but it is small enough that you can get out before those highs, before any real resistance up there. So it's a small trade, but it looks okay. So anyway, we're in this uptrend. We push out of this range, so we're back in the overshoot area again, and then we kind of just take off with this uptrend here. So we bounce right off that key entry point. We push higher. We get a couple of really small corrections that don't lead to any good trades because they don't reach the EMA, and so you can't take anything if it doesn't reach the EMA or any kind of support. And so there's nothing there. We go higher. Eventually we finally get a correction to the EMA, but it's a trap because it's, once again, we're off these highs of this channel here. We're off these highs, but then we have 1 attempt to reach the lows, and then, you can't just buy the first bar after the first attempt. So that's just a first entry. If I draw this, it's clearly in this STT right here, STT, short-term trend line. So there's nothing good there in my opinion. And even this right here, that's really just one big spike bar closing out. So I don't think that's good. It could just break like it did here, make a new low, and then get a good trade. It could have just had a break, new low, off the key entry point, and then a trade. So I don't think there's anything there either. Now here, I did not get my order filled on this, but it looks like a good trade to me. So at this point, at first, it would be more like this. So if I get it right off those wicks and then those bodies. So it's off these range lows. We can tell we're in a range. The EMA is sideways. It's flat. We have this leg down, break, another leg down. So it's 2 legs down off this key entry point with a good signal bar. But I would have wanted to get out before these highs right here, because we do have a big, because even though it's those two legs down there and it's clear two legs, you can still, on a big picture, it's going to end up being one leg. And so we can expect another big leg down. And so I was kind of just worried about entering into that resistance right there. I just wish there was more room is all. So it looks good, but you do need room. So anyway, here you can see this first entry short, second entry short, extremely congestive. It forms this range. That's not a good trade. That's way too congestive. It's not a good reversal pattern. Here, this is another trap, because at this point you would have this downtrend. It held once, twice. It did hold a third time there. And clearly after it break, price is reacting from it. You have this downtrend, break, first attempt at a new low. And the reason I don't like this trade as a long is because it's just the first attempt at a new low, and we have this big spike down. We could get a measured move for it, and we only have one attempt at making a new low, and so that's not good enough. You would want to enter on the second attempt at a new low. That way you wouldn't be worried about it reaching the measured move. And so it traps you, and it ends up making a second leg down. And so yeah, and then that was on the second attempt. So if you had entered on the failure of the first attempt, it's just not as high probability on entering on the failure of the second attempt. But in this case, the second attempt just worked straight out and nothing triggered for it. So anyway, at this point, we have a two-legged break of this channel. So we have this uptrend, two-legged break, and we find resistance. We rush back above the EMA. I have another trap marked right here, and that it's a failed second entry, first entry short, second entry short. It does work out, but I don't think it's particularly great. So let me draw the risk to reward for it. It would have come near your stop a couple times. So it's just a failed second entry, except it's all in this one little trend here. I would want to see a break of the trend. You see how I have this one here marked with these full arrows forming a failed second entry, which part of me didn't like it perfectly, this one right here, because of the two legs up already, but it's at a perfect area for a reversal, which is the downtrend played out with an overall upward bias while fading a range. It's a perfect area for it. But this one right here is just not big picture enough. It's just by the tick. You can get a scalp out of that, but if you want to go for a bigger target, you got to wait on the, and if you want to go for a bigger target with high probability, you got to wait on the big picture stuff. So, oh, whoops, what did I do? Anyway, so, but yeah, this one looks pretty good. It's a big picture failed second entry. And so we go into this uptrend here. We have a couple of corrections. We're not quite reaching the EMA. Here we're reaching the trend line, but there's no room to buy anything, and then we don't want to go short counter trend at this point here. We rush back in. You can see there's kind of a failed second entry, first entry long, second entry long, failure, but it's not off of anything, so you can't take it. We push down, and looks like we're getting near the end. So we push lower here. We get these trades off the key entry point, but they're not reaching the EMA, so I don't think there's any good entries here. We push lower, we finally correct, we break this downtrend. So we break, first attempt at a new low, second attempt at a new low, failure. So I'll draw these visuals here. It's on a short term, it'll eventually happen on a bigger term. You'll get bigger attempts, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But the first level of price action here, we have the downtrend, break, first attempt at a new low, second attempt at a new low, failure. So it gets easier over time to see and just to kind of know and recognize things instantly, and eventually it gets to the point that you stop drawing everything. That happened to me. I kind of ran into a couple of times where I wasn't drawing everything to see if I even needed to, but that usually just ends up screwing me up in some way. Always draw the lines, even if you get to the point that you feel like you don't have to. But anyway, so clearly, let me draw this range here. We're going into this range. We could get a breakout pullback. As soon as we break out, it's pulling back, so that's probably what it's trying to form. But yeah, so that's going to do it for this video. And yeah, y'all have a good one.